Welcome to the My Amazon Guy podcast. Today, our guest is Sarah. How do you say your last name, by the way?
Dajani.
Dajani. All right. I would have got it right, but I was afraid. I was too afraid. So today, we're going to speak about 10 or 15 minutes, then we'll open it up for questions. Sarah is part of an Amazon aggregator. That is somebody that acquires FBA brands and groups them together. And she is the VP of Operations. And we'll turn it over to Sarah here to go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are and what Boosted Commerce is.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Stephen. It's really exciting to be part of the podcast. We're all fans at Boosted. I come to Boosted from a background that includes entrepreneurship myself. I had my own food business in London. And I've done a lot of work with CPGs. I have held marketing and operational roles at CPGs, including my latest role, which was at a company acquired by Procter & Gamble. So that's sort of my brief background. And Boosted, as you mentioned, we're an acquirer of FBA businesses, and my role there is really to help grow those businesses after acquisition.
So I have personally interviewed about 40 different Amazon aggregators. I think Boosted is a little bit more special than the run-of-the-mill aggregator. And so that's why we brought him on the podcast today. So Sarah has a very unique background, especially with that Procter & Gamble comment. And as I understand it, there's kind of an evolution going on right now between the actual shelf at the store versus the digital shelf. And Sarah, you have a lot of insight into that area.
Yeah, this is an area that's been extremely fascinating to me for a few years. And it started out with my experience at CPG and starting to see the impact that digital was having on our world. So, historically, we've seen companies like Procter & Gamble that really owned the physical shelf space. So they had these really strong relationships with Target and Walmart, and they had their space on the physical shelf. And the reason that they were able to capture so much of the customer's interest and dollars was because they had that physical shelf space. If you walked into Target, that was the foot traffic that would translate into sales. And, yes, they had TV ads and huge marketing teams and all of that, but really if they didn't own and pay for their spot on the shelf at Target, they wouldn't have had the customer. And so a company like Boosted, the reason I joined Boosted is because Boosted is an outgrowth of a really big change that happened, which is where the physical shelf started becoming smaller and slightly less important than the digital shelf. And the digital shelf is Amazon. It's Target.com. It's Walmart.com. As things shifted over to the digital shelf, that foot traffic that was so valuable turned into impressions and glance views, right? What we always think about, like a product detail page, glance views. And it became about how could you capture your spot on the digital shelf through ranking, right? Ranking tactics, and then also then capture conversion on your product detail page. And so when this shift was starting to happen, we were seeing this crazy thing happening on Amazon where small FBA sellers were starting to go head to head with Olay and Neutrogena and other brands that just dominated the physical shelf.
What's really interesting about that comment is, so like I'd be working with guys shipping stuff out of their garage, their basement, their closet. And then I would work with like corporations and they're like, well, this listing's doing better. This listing has more sales and reviews. And I'd be like, yeah, but it looks like garbage, right? Like the corporations out there, like don't optimize to the best practices like the entrepreneurs who have to survive and put food on the table. Mm-hmm. But we've now seen the corporations kind of catch up, pay more attention, actually build out some A+ content, fill in all 6 photos of their product, that good stuff. But I see aggregators like Boosted coming in, and it's going to take it to a whole new level, right? Like, so it's never been a better time to sell on Amazon, but it's also never been a more complex time to sell on Amazon. So are there any best practices that you are seeing that maybe others might find of value?
Yeah, there are a lot of best practices. Obviously, the core set of best practices is kind of our secret sauce at Boosted. And so I won't be able to get into too many details there, but what I can talk about is sort of the difference between a company like Boosted and their best practices versus what you might see at a larger CPG company. And typically, it's at a place like Boosted. Boosted was founded by two entrepreneurs who have been really successful in their life. So all they think about is, how do I grow businesses? What are the scrappy, smart, really big movement ways to gain share? And there are a bunch of playbooks there, right? There are a ton of playbooks on how to do that. And these playbooks are not public. They're not things that you can just go and Google and figure out how to do them. A lot of FBA sellers know those playbooks too. Not all of them, but they know a good portion of them. And so the way that Boosted works and the way that we kind of try to grow these brands is by executing on those playbooks. Versus, like you're talking about, some of these bigger CPG companies, they are starting to get better listing optimization and all of that, but they're still really looking at digital business, any sort of digital sales, as incremental to their core business. Their core business is still that business with Target and Walmart and grocery stores, where the physical shelf is. And so they're not putting the same resources into building out those playbooks.
So for those that are interested in learning a little bit more about aggregators, we have an actual website where we post a lot of intel on aggregators. You can go to AmazonAggregators.com. Part of the top of this page, we actually collect information for those that want to sell their company. Obviously, I don't want anybody to sell their Amazon company. I want them to hire us to grow it. But I find value in making introductions. And so on this list is a list of all the Amazon FBA acquirers and aggregators out there, a bunch of intel. And then as you can see here, we've got Thrasio, Heyday, Perch, and Boosted, and Join Branded. I consider these the top 5 aggregators out there. So Boosted's already raised 137 million, 30 plus brands acquired. They got some room to catch up. Thrasio just posted its 100th. But I suspect that you guys are going to probably try and climb those charts a little bit. Yeah.
We're so excited by this space. We don't really look at our competitors too closely. We have a lot of respect for what everyone's doing in the space. But what we really want to do is we want to grow the brands. That's all that we're focused on. As an FBA seller, you're sitting there, you've put your heart and soul into this thing for many years, and you're hitting up against things that often, just for lack of capital, you just can't overcome them. And you want to see your brand go somewhere where people know how to really grow it. And so that's all that we're focused on. We're heads down, trying to focus on really being good at that.
So I like the focus on growth. Obviously, I'm an entrepreneur doing the same thing, right? I'm constantly trying to grow my companies. And so, and notice I use the word plural, companies, right? Because every entrepreneur ever is a serial entrepreneur, always doing lots of different things. And so it can be a lot of fun. Recently, in talks from what I've seen, aggregators, by and large, 95% of them have a particular sweet spot of brands they're looking to acquire, right? Most of them are avoiding supplements. Most of them are avoiding high SKU count brands. And they usually want some hero type products where there's 1 or 3 SKUs that are $1 million products. So is there anything about your acquisition taste that might be slightly off from that channel, or any particular things you guys are looking for that maybe might make you guys a special relationship with a particular brand that they want to sell to you?
Yeah, I mean, we have, if anyone wants to look at our M&A criteria, we've got that in a few articles online. You can Google it. But, for us, what it's really about is we're trying to grow a group of household brands. So the way that we're trying to do that is it's in partnership with the sellers. So, some people talk about white glove service or really a boutique approach. Just to kind of put it very simply, we know that if you're an entrepreneur, you're the type of person, and Stephen, you're a perfect example of this, you're the type of person who goes out there, and if you have 3 months off, you're probably going to start 6 businesses, right? You're not going to just start one, right? I've heard you say something like that before.
My 4th baby's coming here in a couple of weeks, and my wife is worried I'm going to use that time to do just that. So yes.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's an even bigger accomplishment for children. But I mean, I think, that's the way people think. That's the way FBA sellers think. They're these incredible entrepreneurs. And but I think what Boosted brings is, we bring that, if you want to sell your business, we bring that capital to really grow it, but we're also a partner. So I think in terms of criteria and what we're looking for good partnership fits, right? And that happens through the conversations with us. If you guys want to get some of an idea of what I mean by partnership, we have a program called Seller Circle that we do. That's really about post-close, helping all of our FBA sellers become even more successful entrepreneurs. We give you access to, proprietary tools. We give you access to our network, which is phenomenal. Our network is the reason that I joined Boosted. So, that's the type of thing that we really are trying to create when we go through that M&A process.
Tell us a little bit about the Seller Circle. I think that might be a little bit unique.
Yeah. So what we do is we have there are a bunch of different components. There are 4 components to the Seller Circle, and one of the components is an education component, and also an equip component. So what we're trying to do there really is, obviously we're going to throw you a celebration and really let you kind of live it up after you close, because you deserve that. You deserve some rest, and unless you're going to be like Stephen and take that rest and go start 6 businesses, but you do deserve time to celebrate. And then this equip and educate piece are the ones that I really love, because it's about setting you up for success in your next phase, right? And that might be, we're going to give you access to a whole bunch of tools that you wouldn't have access to at all, because they're either proprietary or we have special relationships with other providers. And then the educate part is really about bringing you into our network. And as every entrepreneur knows, access to people and resources are 2 of the most important things for being a successful entrepreneur. And we help provide you what we have there as well. So it's kind of like becoming part of the Boosted family in a way.
Got it. And what's Headspace?
Oh, Headspace is an app that supports sort of mindfulness and helps people get into a place where they're more they're able to meditate and be more in tune.
Zen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very good. We're going to take a question here from Brett. So Brett says, curious what Sarah's thoughts are on new inventory restrictions. How are they handling these challenges in their brands? So obviously the shipping restriction changes from that SKU level restriction up to the standard storage total restriction. And it's like, Amazon's like, hey, your IPI might be 500, but you can only send in 5,000 units.
Yeah. It's we're struggling with it the same way all FBA sellers are struggling with it. What this really impacts us on is on things around demand forecasting, as well as how we're able to increase inventory limits. So those are the main areas of concern for us. We have a really strong supply chain that's very familiar with Amazon and knows how to deal with these things. So we're quickly finding solutions. But I think, as with everything on Amazon, it's about testing out new sort of strategies, right? Like if you had an ASIN that had a really high inventory limit and now you're handicapped by your account limit, that you've got to start testing new strategies to get those inventory limits up, right? And just kind of see what works with the algorithm.
This one comes in from Iman. Going through a rename due to a lawsuit, 110, 113K revenue per month, 27 to 35K per profits. If it stays the same, how much does a rename impact purchase price for a company like yours?
So, renames, I assume what you're talking about is a rebranding, essentially changing.
I think that's what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in big companies, rebranding is impacts something called goodwill, which is associated with all of the positive effects you've gotten from your brand name, which essentially comes from your relationship with your customers. So the way to, for a size of the business that's the size of yours, without knowing what your brand relationship is with your customers, it could be no impact at all to a really big one. But I think what's more interesting here is that if you do the renaming right, the rebranding right, you get a bunch of different designs for your 99 designs or whichever resource you want to use, and then you test them with your consumer group, right? And you may have access to your consumers if you have a Shopify website, and you pick the one that registers best with them on a certain number of metrics, that can actually add a ton of value to your company.
You mentioned 99 designs, and I'm curious if you have like even if it's a theoretical one, but like how would somebody use that? Let's just actually, why don't we just use this example right here? Like how would somebody go on 99 designs to figure out their brand name?
Yeah, so well, let's take a step back. So before you go on, 99 designs is essentially just a tool to get a bunch of designs from different freelancers. But before you go in, you want to put in some parameters on what your design should be. And that's essentially an exercise in brand foundations. And you can Google this. I could spend 10 minutes on it. I could spend 3 hours on it. But brand foundations, you want to think about it as, who is our target customer? Like basically 3 kind of personas that you come up with. And then what are their reasons to believe in my product? Do we have the highest quality product? Do we have the best collagen on the market? Do we have, the easiest way to get your dog to get potty trained? What is really the sort of the real differentiator from your brand, the reason to believe. And then you take those concepts, and you can go to 99 designs, and with those guidelines, go to a bunch of designers and say, these are my customers. These are the reasons to believe for my product. What is a visual that would best represent that? And that's sort of the way you'd go around that.
So Sarah, I can tell you have really deep chops when it comes to this operations stuff that you're talking about. I just got an Amber Alert on my phone there. So when you look at my logo, and there's kind of a fave icon in the top, I guess it's over here. Yeah, over here at the point the opposite direction on my computer. What do you think my logo says? Just curious.
So I think it says growth. Basically.
Perfect. That's perfect. That was my idea with that. So, yeah. All right, good to hear.
It's and that's what's great about it. And then the colors that you chose there are iconic colors. They're actually if the blue is switched out for green, they're iconic colors for food, because it turns out red, green, and yellow makes people hungry. I don't know why, but that's something I found out.
I've heard the red comment before many times. I didn't know the other two also impacted this.
Yeah. You think of kind of Subway's logo, like Subway subs.
That makes perfect sense, actually. Yeah. Do you have any other weird factoids like that? I'm just like, that's fascinating.
I'm full of weird factoids.
We'll pull a few more out. Don't hesitate to go off on a weird tangent. Okay. All right, so let's go to Amber here. Says, where on Seller Central can I find out how much Amazon charges to send me back any unfulfilled inventory? So Amber, this used to be a classic 50 cent type removal fee, and then they changed it based on the size. So there is a chart inside of Seller Central that you can find for those actual removal fees. Amber also asked, can I claim back the cost off Amazon for any damaged FBA inventory damaged by Amazon staff, and will they pay me the price it was going to sell for FBA? Answer to that is yes. We have a service called My Refund Guy where we automate that. Mm-hmm. I would assume, Sarah, you guys also have probably something similar to this.
We're very familiar with My Refund Guy. Yeah, this is one of the, when I was running an FBA business, I hit my head against the wall on these questions like Amrit is asking. I mean, it is so hard sometimes to get your money back, and when you really dig in to those reports, you get shocked. So My Refund Guy is like an incredible service, really valuable.
It's all automated ticketing, and they chase every single thing, and it's commission based. So if they don't come up with it, no charges.
And so basically you're making money. That's like not even a cost to hire My Refund Guy. It's just a way for you to make more money.
So definitely recommend checking that out if you guys haven't yet. You know, if you're not a My Amazon Guy client, but you want to test something out, that's a really great entry level first time service to check us out. All right. So anybody that has questions for Sarah, she clearly has a ton of operations background. Feel free to try and stump Sarah here. She can't share a lot of her trade secrets at Boosted, but she can share some general historical best practices. All right. So Amber asks, on a PPC campaign, what bids do I need to look out for, and what bits of data is the most important? Can you quickly run through this: tacos, ACOS, and ROAS? Sarah, is that a question you'd like to take?
Yeah, I can talk high level about that. So ACOS and ROAS are your typical KPIs for any advertising campaign. They're just the inverse of each other. If you think of flipping a fraction, one over the other. So ACOS is advertising cost of spend. ROAS is return on ad spend. So if you think about ACOS, it's how much does my ad cost me vis-a-vis the sale that it's getting me, right? So you always want that to be, that's usually shown as a percentage. You want it to be, as low as possible. And then ROAS is the inverse of that.
So now, I just pulled up on screen here. This is my actual data for my brand called Momster. We just launched an Age of Sage product, so that's why you see the $126,000 week we just had. Awesome. So what Sarah just talked about was the numerator, probably butchered that word, ACOS and true ACOS here. So you can see 57% ACOS, that is the ad spend divided by the ad revenue, right? And then true ACOS is the amount of ad spend divided by the total revenue. And based on what we've seen on an aggregate data set, 11% is the dead average for all true ACOS across the entire Amazon landscape. So if you're above that, you're too high. If you're below that, you're too low. Try and get right around that 11% target. Sarah, you were sharing some further details. Go ahead and dive in further. I just wanted to showcase that ACOS.
Well, yeah, and that's perfect, because you really need to, I'm a visual learner, you really need to kind of see it to understand what the fractions are. And just true ACOS, sometimes called total ACOS as well, it's sort of the industry, the PPC agency industry shifted to true ACOS. There are a lot of reasons for this that you can kind of think through as I talk through what it is, but it's essentially a different measurement now where as Steven said, you're taking the advertising cost and dividing it over your entire sales. And you might say, well, what the heck? My other sales have nothing to do with ad spend, right? But
they do, though. They totally do.
They do. And the reason that they do is because that you have ads that are going to uprank you on multiple keywords, right? That's kind of the keyword bid strategy. And when they uprank you on those keywords, you are winning more on the digital shelf, right? You're owning more of the digital shelf. And with that comes a whole lot of organic traffic.
So I have a top wine glass on Amazon. I'm not drinking alone. I'm social distancing. I have been banned from advertising since February for this SKU.
Why?
And it supposedly violates some alcohol promotion policy. I have been back and forth with Amazon so many freaking times, but the reason I brought this up on this conversation is because it affected my SEO immediately. I was organically ranked #1 for the term wine glass in February.
Wow.
#1, right?
Wow.
And then the ad ban hit. I'm now organically ranked like 44.
Yeah.
And so the sales have tanked. Whole situation's terrible and awful. So yes, ads and shelf space, which seems to be our theme of our conversation today, absolute impact majorly. So hopefully I'll find out how to get this one unbanned. But it's been tricky. I'll say that.
Good luck. I mean, that's one of the frustrations, right? And there's unfortunately, when it comes to talking to Amazon, there is no playbook. So we're all doing the same stuff.
and Sarah, there's no insider at Amazon helping Boosted, right?
We talk to Amazon, sort of like how you guys can sign up for a SaaS core specialist, but no, there's not like insider help from Amazon. No, not at all.
Yeah, that. By the way, a lot of people suspect that, which is why I asked that question. But from my dialogues with the aggregators, such as Boosted, there really isn't. It's a total grind.
Yeah, it's a total grind. I mean, it's a total grind with anyone. And even when I was working at other companies, like I can't, that stuff I definitely can't share, but let me guarantee you it is a grind for everyone working with Amazon.
Yeah. And like back in the day when I was doing beta stuff with Amazon, because I've been doing this a long time.
Mm.
And so like I was part of the beta advertising program. Like that was when I actually had help from Amazon. And it's been like almost 10 years since like Amazon helped companies. All right.
I mean, just one more point on that, if you don't mind, Stephen. Yeah, back in the day when I was working with Amazon Launchpad, it was similar, right? But now Amazon Launchpad is this like huge program within Amazon, and they're still super helpful, but it's not the same. It's just, again, it's kind of that beta to alpha thing.
I've had 3 clients use Launchpad for a year, then they come to us and then they get their real launch. So
there you go.
But yeah, so Amazon, for every 10 programs they start, they keep 1. It seems like they try a lot of different things. All right. Daniel says, I'm building a brand from zero. What would be your suggestions to start with the right foot?
Right. So I'm going to assume again, Daniel, that this is, you've got your products in mind. If you don't have your products in mind, then I would start there. And there are, a ton of resources on how to pick the right products to sell on Amazon. But assuming you have your products in mind, again, you want to figure out what is going to be your differentiation for those products in the marketplace. And the way you look at this, there are a bunch of frameworks, but you want to look at your competitor set. You want to look at pricing. You want to look at your capabilities on the supply chain side. You want to look at the customers. So those are some of the high level things that you want to look at. And as you go through each of those, you're going to get a ton of information that's going to help you hone down of what is my brand going to be really about. And you'll be able to, one of the things that I love to do when I do competitor research on this type of stuff is I look at the Q&As, the questions and answers on product detail pages of competitors. You can get a ton of information there on differentiation, right?
Isn't it amazing how much data is available, right? So like amazing. I used to pay, like $100,000 a year for data and intel that like you can get on Amazon for like $100 a month
and
now.
That is the key, but that's the key of all of this, which is like big corporations go out and pay firms hundreds of thousands of dollars for high level market insights, right? Stuff that we just like, it's like, we can't afford this stuff, right? But the way a scrappy entrepreneur does it is they go and they do kind of the 80-20 approach, right? 80% of the answer from 20% of the effort. And one way to do this, you go to the question and answers, you go to the reviews. If you have access to brand analytics, you look at brand analytics. All of those tools are going to be a treasure trove for you to figure out that differentiation, which is then going to feed into what I mentioned before, your customer personas, your reasons to believe, your brand voice, what we are not. And then from that flows the brand elements.
I'm currently listening to the 4-Hour Workweek book, and that 80-20 comment triggered me. Have you read that book?
I have not, but I've listened to a lot of the podcasts from him. Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. I will, obviously running an agency, that'll never happen for me, but many Amazon sellers are looking for that hashtag passive income / 4-Hour Workweek. It's possible. I've talked to a few of them, but not pretty rare. It's pretty hard to run an Amazon.
I mean, I would say like if you want passive income, entrepreneurship is probably not the right way to go.
Yes, you need money to make money. Go throw it into cryptocurrency. All right. So, all right. Brett says, any tips on dealing with Chinese black hat sellers? Have friends that get attacked weekly. Has resorted to uploading listing files automatically every 10 minutes. Can't believe sellers have to deal with this.
Yeah. I'm going to say a couple of things here. This is part of our playbook, so I can't go into too much detail. Let me say that when you I know why you said Chinese black hat sellers, but we want to be clear, it's not just Chinese, right? It's from all over the world, and it's a lot of American sellers too. So just be aware of that. What I would tell you to do is if you've got any friends from like a mastermind class or whatever, talk to all of them. Go out to your network and ask them. And don't stop asking until you get answers, because someone will have gone through the same thing and they'll give you a little hint of what to look for. You add that to your playbook. You keep asking. And then also contact Amazon seller support. Contact them over and over and over and over again. You will get information, maybe in drips and drabs, maybe not every time, but you will get information that will help you build your playbook.
It can feel like crickets on occasion when you're trying to contact Amazon support, but hang in there. Good advice on that. And I would also, two things I'll add to that. Make sure you have brand registry set up, have that trademark, critical, and make sure you load your product data to all other countries. It will limit these challenges. It won't eliminate them, but it will limit them. Iman says, my logo is very prominent. I'm thinking of slowly rebranding with just changing the name without changing the logo. Thoughts? Hiring a branding company for rename. Brand Deadstock Los Angeles. I will look it up.
Yeah. So changing the name without changing the logo. That for me is, I think that, the thoughts, the question there is thoughts. So my thought is focus group. If your logo is very prominent, you're saying that means probably you have a strong, I see that.
Yeah, it's a little blurry. I think it's too small, but you get the idea of the logo right there.
Well, yeah, you're handicapped a bit there with the, so when you're saying logo is very prominent, I assume what you're meaning is that your customers have a strong affinity for your logo. They care about your logo. That tells me you have contact with your customers. If you have contact with your customers, focus groups. You can do it over Slack. You can do it over a phone call. You can do it by mail. You can do it on Instagram, but just do focus groups, which is a set of questions and get really deep in there. There's the way that I kind of think about what's the best way to go about these things is actually empathy interviews. If you're interested, look up what an empathy interview is under the design process. It's product design. And you can find some information there. It's usually the Stanford Design School has great guides on this, but they're one-on-one conversations, right? You use open-ended questions, no yes or no leading questions, to really figure out what your customer cares about, why they buy your product. And that can give you a lot of insights.
I've never heard of the term empathy interview. And so, Sarah, when I bring an expert on like you and I'm like, whoa, there's just a whole world I don't even know about. Very interesting. So I'll add.
If you're interested in that, Stephen, you should look up the design firm IDEO, IDEO, and their entire business is built off these principles. Wow.
All right. Check them out. Global design company. Cool. So, just kind of looking at the Deadstock name, if I had to guess, the word Los Angeles might be what changes, but Deadstock staying the same. Iman, if I'm heading in the right direction, let me know. But that's interesting. The shoe logo here, I think you could keep that. You just have to figure out like what words to change, I guess. Maybe trying to keep the word dead would make a lot of sense. I don't know why, but that seems pretty prominent based on the name of it. All right, let's go to our next question here. So, hello, with the long name I can't pronounce. I am relatively new to selling on Amazon. The case is Amazon increased fees from 5 to 10% for some of my products. However, these are similar items. I have no idea why. So the referral fee is usually right around 15%. There are certain categories that they adjust about once every 8 to 12 months where they do adjust some fees. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. Sarah, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I'm with you, Stephen. I think if you go into some of the reports on Seller Central, sometimes you can get more detailed breakdown of fees. Otherwise, in my experience, you're going to resort to, again, having to call Amazon to get details on that. Or you could hire my refund guy to get some more expert advice.
Thank you for that plug. So the other thought I have here, maybe it's a reference to the FBA fees going up. And if that's the case, then I would recommend measuring your item, getting a cell phone picture of you holding up your item with a measuring tape, and then literally tell them what the dimensions should be so that they lower your FBA fees. That might be what he's looking for.
Yeah.
All right, Masomi says, where on Seller Central can I find the inventory report for the year that shows inventory sold, disposed, returns? My accountant is asking for it for tax purposes. So very difficult to find every nook and cranny report within Amazon, but under the reports tab, I bet you if you go to fulfillments, that is where you're looking for this one. So under Seller Central, go to reports and go to fulfillment. And on the left-hand side, there are dozens of drop downs.
Yeah, that left-hand side is always, it's got, you find a golden nugget in there.
Yeah, so like there's show more buttons. That's how many of them there are in here. So I'm just control F-ing sold. Nothing with the word sold on it. Let's do the word inventory. Here you go. So inventory storage overage fees, there's that. And you can see the word inventory is mentioned like 100 times on the screen here with the highlights. A lot of ones in here. I know one of them that you're probably going to look at is probably the reconciliation. Let's see if I can find the word. Yeah, inventory reconciliation. Start with this one, Masomi. See what this gets you, and that might be a strong portion of what you're looking for. All right, let's go to Amarit again. I sell an item on FBA for £15 after all costs. Maybe that's the euro sign. I profit 5. Can I get into an endless supply of this product in the UK? Can you suggest with this data how much I should spend on PPC a day? Currently, £20 or euros a day. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's a couple of ways to think about this. A lot of it has to do with what your current ranking is and how long you've been selling the item. And it depends on your ability, the capacity you have to go negative on a product. So when you're saying $20 per day, you're spending on PPC a day. Okay, so all you want to do is you want to basically, no matter how much you're spending, you want to look at what it's doing to your ranking, and then you want to look at what it's doing to your profitability. And you want to measure if you're spending, and let's say you're breaking even on profitability wise. And again, looking at that from an ACoS level is relevant. If you're breaking even, but you're going up in ranking and you're growing your business, you're growing your top line, which would be your revenue, and you're breaking even on the profitability for those advertised products, well, then you're growing your business. And that's one way to think about it. But I would say always look at how is your top line revenue growth going? How are you making your business bigger? How is it affecting your bottom line profitability, and do the equation from there.
Sarah, I really like the insight you're offering today. A lot of my Q&As that I do on Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time are like super technical. How do I do X, Y, Z in Seller Central? And you are getting out of our group here more of the strategic high level stuff. And I think you're giving some incredible answers on it. So thank you for sharing. All right. So Iman says, thank you for the awesome advice. Gave some clarification on the logo here. And dead stock is what he's renaming. So on here, it wasn't the Los Angeles part; it was the dead stock. That's disappointing because that's a pretty clever name. I like it. So I think going back to Sarah's point earlier, I think you're going to have to really quiz the adjectives or the values of the customers that you have to figure out what word could replace that. You could even let them know, hey, if you had to describe the brand with one word, what word would you choose? And then kind of snowball from there.
And I'll add just one thing for Iman is that if it has to go because of I'm sensing some sort of legal issue, maybe a trademark.
He did mention the legal, yeah.
Yeah. So if there's something like that, you can always again through networks find maybe a lawyer or a trademark advisor who can help give you some advice on word names that are maybe close to dead stock that you can trademark then and get some protection that way.
A little bit of IP research will probably go a long way. That's for sure. Nico says, I'm considering changing my brand name to a more generic term to incorporate a new product, but I also don't want to confuse or lose my existing customers. Do you have suggestions for such a transition? I'll take this one first and then toss it to you, Sarah. So Nico, don't rechange your brand name. That's my advice. Open a second brand name and make that second brand name the generic name. There's a couple of reasons why I suggest this. The first is you don't want to lose or damage what you currently have going. And the second is you probably do need multiple brand names at this point. So there's a Shark Tank episode with GoPro where the dude explains, the CEO of GoPro explains, the reason why he was happy with the choice GoPro is because he could literally sell any item under that brand name. And if he had chosen something like Go Camera or Go, something else, he would have been limited to what the people would have assumed associated to the brand. So Nico, I think you need multiple brands at this junction in your life cycle. Go file another trademark. We do offer those at My Amazon Guy if you're interested. We've done more than 300 of them in the past year. All right, Sarah, what's your take on this one?
I agree with you completely, Stephen. The only caveat I would say is if it happens to be like something supplements and you want to change it to something health, for example. Like if it's something, if you're just changing the second part of the word to be more broad, sometimes you can do that and get away with it with your customers. Kind
of like an alias almost, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, the example that I think of is, I think there's a company named Imperfect Produce, and they stopped doing, they continue doing produce, but they expanded into other things, and they rebranded as Imperfect Foods. So just a little bit broader, and it was fine for the customers.
Got it. Iman says, I'm too deep with lawyer fees. Been fighting for about a year now, and that's why I'm accepting the name change terms and conditions. LOL. Again, thank you for both your advice. I thought it was a fascinating use case scenario, Iman, and a very complicated one. And since it's a legal one, a lot of people wouldn't be willing to share. So it's kind of interesting for a lot of people to get some of that insight. So we appreciate you sharing. Thank you very much for that. So Sarah, if somebody wants to get in touch with your team, if they're interested in selling their brand to Boosted Commerce, what would you recommend they do?
Well, you can go to our website. We have a form there that you can fill out, and we'll get back to you immediately. If you have specific questions for me, my email is open. It's just Sarah with an H at boostedcommerce.com.
Cool. So hopefully you guys check them out. Feel free to let them know you found about them on the My Amazon Guy show. That way they know that you watch this. And then, Sarah, any parting advice? Elon Musk would say if entrepreneurs need any encouragement, they shouldn't be entrepreneurs. But nonetheless, any parting wisdom you would like to offer today, Sarah?
Yes, I will not be nearly as cutting as Elon Musk. But what I will say is that, FBA sellers, those of you listening to this podcast, you are tremendous entrepreneurs. You're tremendously valuable. The existence of a company like ours, Boosted Commerce, testifies to that. We want to buy your businesses. Previously, you may have not had that option, but now you do. And so be aware that your business is valuable. What you are doing is valuable. What you bring to the table is valuable. If you want to exit, look for a good partner. Look for somebody who's really going to keep in mind what you need both now, what you need for your brand, and what you need for your future career.
Great advice and great wisdom from Sarah today with Boosted Commerce, an FBA aggregator. I consider them one of the top 5 Amazon aggregators in the space. They've acquired more than 30 brands, and it was great to have you on the show today, Sarah.
Thank you, Stephen. It was a pleasure.
That's the My Amazon Guy podcast. We're going to have another episode tomorrow, and then on Friday, we'll have our typical standard weekly sync.